Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on my channel. My name is Adam and I will be doing a Beast Quest retrospective video on Series 22, The Lost Beasts of Mackay. I had to actually check the name of that series. Now, with The Lost Beasts of Mackay, Series 22, it is widely considered to be one of the more popular series of Beast Quest, especially during the new generation of Series 14 to 27. With Series 22 normally ranking in the new generation in the it's definitely not number one, but it's normally in the top 5, maybe top 7 area of those 15 14 15 seasons. So it normally ranks relatively high, and that I can get behind. That one I believe is actually worth being ranked as high as it is. Now, when it comes down to the Lost Beasts of Mackay, it takes place in Mackay, which is a island which is, I don't know how far away from Avantia, but basically the evil villain Rhea is building together an army to invade Avantia, which if you read the most recent series of Beast Quest, being Series 32, you'll know the plot's very similar. The differences are the beasts, and that is my area of expertise, where I can safely say the beasts in Series 22 are better than the beasts in Series 32, not power-wise, but it's more along the lines of these beasts here actually have a job regarding their existence in Mackay, while Series 32 didn't. They were just a case of, oh, let's just exist, be an obstacle. So Series 22 has 4 beasts in there, and these are the names of them. Let's try and angle it so that you guys can actually read them. And introduce them one by one. We have Menux the Saber-Toothed Terror. Try and angle the light in here. Larnak the Swarming Menace. Drurog Hammer of the Jungle. And Nursefa the Cursed Siren. So these 4 beasts all range in creativity levels from kind of basic creativity to absolutely incredible. And whilst I wouldn't say there's one beast that's a lot better than another, I rank all these beasts quite closely together in terms of likeness and enjoyment. And my opinion on this series has changed a lot when it comes to my ranking of these beasts. Because originally it was one beast that was my favourite, then it went to another, then it went to another, then another. Literally, 3 of these beasts have been my favourite of this series throughout the entire time since I've read this series. 3 of them, because there's one that's always stayed my least favourite, and I'll explain why when we get to that ranking. But with that, please bear in mind this retrospective is entirely my opinion, and I'll be going through each beast one by one to explain pretty much every aspect about them that I like. Maybe a couple of negatives here and there, but most of it will be positives, because ultimately this video is part of a series where I give each series of Beast Quest a moment in the spotlight to show appreciation for. The only time I've struggled with showing appreciation for the entire series was Series 16, and this is not Series 16, this is Series 22. So with that, let's get into this retrospective. Menux the Saber-Toothed Terror. On the design aspect, unfortunately Menux is quite simple, but still has some unique aspects which saves him from being bland and boring. Those aspects which saves him is the chain across his chest, the saber-tooth fang, and also the claws. Especially the curvature on those claws. Those are really good claws. The abilities are, however, incredibly basic and bland, giving him a few negative points there. But in terms of the fight, the setting for it takes place in a forge with varying levels of wooden scaffolding and a giant pit of fire in the middle, which makes the setting for the fight unique and good and great. As for the actual fight, nothing great to note, but it's more like it's more along the lines of run around the forge and eventually Menux falls into the pit, and then the fight is finished. So hey ho. Here's, I will say, keynote, I will go through each beast and mention the jobs that they had with wherever they are. Menux's job was actually making sure that the slaves in the Red Steel Forge are mining away at the Red Steel and forging it into weapons ready for the invasion that Rhea's pirate gang is planning on Avantia. And that's also another interesting note. Each beast this series has a part of them which is made of red steel. In Menex's case, it's his fang. As for Battle of the Beasts, Menex does not have that good of a reputation, as he died in round 1 for New Generation and round 3 for All Generation. So he's on a steady incline, but as he doesn't have any standout abilities, unfortunately, I don't see the incline increasing any more further than it has already. So, not a great thing to say about Menux, but unfortunately, though, there are a lot of drawbacks with this beast. I do hope he gets time to get more appreciation, but ultimately, there is only so much you can do with some beasts, and unfortunately, Menux is one of those beasts. Up next is Larnak the Swarming Menace. Design is great in my opinion, with the head being a key highlight. The claws are also a nice touch, and the rough edges making the beast go from simple to great. Makes the beast go from simple to great. The abilities are also quite good, with flight as the obvious, but she has an adhesive that excretes from her legs, and she can shoot out of her mouth as well, which can stick her opponents in place, but also kind of makes them a bit nauseous. But if that's not cool enough for you guys, here is arguably her best ability, and that is that she's made up of hundreds of thousands of locusts, allowing her to change her form from her form, which you see on the cover, into a swarm of locusts, and back into her true form at will. The fight, like with Menux, takes place in a great area, but this one is more unique than any other arena that any beast in the entire series has ever been fought in, which is the Elixir Wells. As for the actual fight, it doesn't deliver entirely, as it's a little basic, but at one point Tom goes head to head against Larnak whilst flying on his shield, which added a unique aspect to the fight, but to me it doesn't save it from standing out. Now, the parts of Larnak which is made of red steel is actually her exoskeleton along the back, along her back, and her job is actually guarding the Elixir Wells, making sure that the elixir is gathered up and transported to the ships in the bay. We'll get to that later, which gives the ships the ability to fly around in their signature style, which we've seen since Series 8 when it comes to the pirates. In Battle of the Beast, Larnak has taken part in 3 tournaments, with the results being making it to round 2 in New Generation, round 1 in All Generation, and then the final 4, or the semi-finals, in the Insects Only. With the impressive progress she made in Insects Only, that makes her reputation a little inconsistent due to the not so great results of the other tournaments. But with her ability of Locust Physiology being as overpowered as it is, there is a chance she will probably make a great comeback in a future tournament where she can come in, win it hands down. But at the moment, Larnak, inconsistent reputation, but I know there's a good part coming for her. Durog Hammer of the Jungle. With my opinions on Monkey Beast being mostly negative, it surprises me to say that originally I really liked the design of Durog, and that opinion stays true today. The multiple limbs and the tail makes Durog instantly the best Monkey Beast in design, but what makes it better to me in my opinion is nostalgia towards Ben 10 and Durog looking like the picture definition of an actual spider monkey with the 8 limbs and all that. Abilities are simple but effectively used, being what you'd expect, but the clear standout for all his abilities is easily the tail, which Durog uses as a mace. Plus, the 3 sets of arms are an add-on which makes Durog a beast that can do multiple things at once, which makes him even more of a threat than he actually is. The fight didn't take place in a unique area, being just a jungle, or forest rather. But I think it's still good with the trees of the jungle being used in the fight to stop Tom from retreating from Durog. But with that being said, there isn't that much else to add on about the fight. It is probably the weakest part of this beast. Like what Jack said regarding Series 22 being overrated in his opinion, He does mention that Durog's fight should have taken place in the trees, like it shows on the cover. And I do agree, but whilst the fight is still the weakest point to me, it would have been nice to see that, but there's only so much you can do when it comes to a beast that's already excelled in abilities and design. The part of Durog, which is made of red steel, is his tail mace, hence why he's able to. It actually presents itself to be a very hard hitter. As for his job, is to make sure is to gather wood along with the slaves there, to gather wood to make the ships ready for the invasion. Yeah, ready to make the ships for the invasion. Now, Durog has taken part in 2 tournaments in Battle of the Beasts with very different results. With his placement being the semi-finals in the New Generation tournament and making it to round 2 in All Generation tournament before being incinerated by Furno. Unfortunately, with 2 tournaments he's taken part in with varying results, that leads to a rather average reputation from Battle of the Beasts, which is a shame because he had one of the best reputations. Then All Generation came out and then it just plummeted. So Durog has gone on a bit of a downfall, but I wouldn't say it's a downfall where it's a bad thing. Ultimately, Durog got eliminated by a beast that made it into the top 10, I think. Top 10, top 20. Out of 154 beasts, maybe 155, that is still pretty good to be to make it into the round 2 and only get eliminated by a beast that's made it very far in that tournament. I knew it was going to be a tough battle, and ultimately I stand by Durog losing that fight, but there was all chances that he could have won as well. Nsepha the Cursed Siren. To start off, her design is absolutely terrifying, especially on first sight. But once that initial reaction softens, it is easily the best designed beast in Series 22. With the sword hand, gaping bottomless looking jaw, seaweed hair and barnacles all over her body, all these attributes gives Nsepha an extra intimidation boost. For the abilities, unfortunately Nsepha does fall short, with relatively simple abilities that you'd expect from how she looks on the cover, plus the abilities of a siren, a lowering voice, sword arm, agility in water and sharp teeth, just to name a few abilities. Nsepha's fight was probably the best out of all the beasts this series, starting on the cliff sides of Makai, into the ocean, and then finishing on top of a flying pirate ship. The place A to place B idea for the fight is something I normally like, especially when it's a quite different environment and terrain, which gives Tom and Eleanor different levels of advantage throughout the book. As for Battle of the Beasts... Oh, wait, no, let's stop that for now. So, that fight is easily one of the best because it transfers from A to B very well. Now, the part in Nsepha, which is made of red steel, is her sword hand, which you see here. And her job was guarding the ships in the... Oh, what's the bay called? Yeah, I thought it was. So her job was to guard the ships of Makai that's held in the Bay of Heroes, almost built up in a fleet sort of manner for them to all fly up with the elixir from the elixir wells and make their way towards Avantia, ready to invade. Ultimately, all the weapons from the pirates were made from red steel as well, which explains the red steel forge, and obviously the ships are made of wood, which explains the jungle as well. So there was every beast here had a job to make sure one thing was done, and that ultimately culminates up to this, where everything's being held at the Bay of Heroes, and Nsepha is the guardian of the fleet ready to invade Avantia. Brilliant. As for Battle of the Beasts, Nsepha has taken part in 2 tournaments with not so great results. Round 1 in New Generation, where she got electrocuted by Thoron, and in All Generation she made it to round 3 before becoming a soldier to Ferric, and then meeting her ultimate end in the very next battle in the following round against Griff. Now that was a Griff versus Ferric matchup, but because Ferric turned Nsepha into his Iron Legion, Nsepha went against Griff as well, and Griff made very quick work of Nasefa. With this, I can't say that she has done well in these tournaments, but she lasted relatively long in all generation, but not a very impressive result. Just a more like, hey, you did that, well done. Kind of, yeah, that's the kind of result that she did. And with that, that's my individual opinion on each beast of Series 22. So overall, though, Series 22, in my opinion, is a series which I do believe if someone doesn't like it, they need to reread it. Because the beasts tie in so well with with the main story, and with the beasts actually having their own jobs, it adds an extra level of uniqueness to what what could have been a mediocre set of beasts. Because let's be honest, if the beasts didn't have their jobs as well as great reputations throughout Battle of the Beasts and something else that sticks out to them, then what special aspects do they actually have which makes them better than the story? The answer is nothing. Because Larnak does have some great abilities. Durog had a fantastic run throughout Battle of the Beast. So did Nasefa, has stuff which sticks out, especially her design. But take that away, and take away the jobs that they have in this series. They have nothing special to note of them. And then my opinion on this series would be a lot lower than what it is now. I do believe Series 22 is one of the best series because the story delivers, in my opinion, and the beasts having their own jobs adds an extra layer of depth to these beasts, which is why it kind of baffles me when Jack said he believes this series is overrated, followed by his number one entry, but I already spoke about that series. So, whilst I do respectfully disagree with Jack's opinion on Series 22 being overrated, I can understand where he's coming from, but I think rereading it and seeing that these beasts actually had an extra layer of depth with their jobs, and whilst I will be honest, sometimes there are aspects which doesn't deliver with each beast. Actually, no, there is aspects that doesn't deliver with each beast. Put that aside, I think them having jobs makes up for it, and if the story's not really your thing, like a good swashbuckling adventure, then I can see this series being a more middle of the road series. But compared to the other series of the new generation, especially, I still believe this is one of the best series. And that I think is why I believe I don't need to defend this series as much as I feel like I need to defend the series before it, because this is a good series in my opinion. So ultimately, that is my opinion on Series 22. I know I've been repeating a lot of words over and over again, but I'm only human. So let's get into the ranking. So coming in fourth place is a relatively obvious pick. It is, of course, Menux the Sabertooth Terror. Now, what holds Menux back is his design being a bit basic compared to the others, and his abilities probably being one of the more bland side. But then you got the fight, which makes up for, well, as much as it can, it makes up for what is lackluster abilities and design. And then his reputation in Battle of the Beast is not a great one at all. And he only made it to round 3 in all generation due to very easy matchups he got in round 1 and round 2. One of his matchups was Trillian the Three-Headed Lion. But then the Holy Bible says that this beast is a whole lot bigger than Trillian. And then at that point, I was like, okay, nice knowing Trillian. So, oh dear. So, yeah. So, originally, with 2 negative aspects, along with a not so great Battle of the Beast's reputation, a good fight won't save it. But then it adds on to what I say regarding his job, which does make up for that. And that is, of course, the ability, well, that is making sure that the slaves of the Red Steel Forge mine away the red steel, forge it into metal, and send it, well, forge it into weapons rather, and send it away to the Bay of Heroes, ready for the offensive side for the invasion, ready for the invasion. Personally, I think Menex's job is probably the least important out of all of the jobs that these beasts have, but it's still an important one nonetheless. And I feel like no, I'm really trying to think of what to say that isn't a repeat of what I've already said. With the job and the fight, I feel like that does make up for the lackluster design and abilities and reputation in tournaments. However, ultimately it's 3-2, and then it just makes it. I can't really say that's a good aspect. Ultimately, the reputation in Battle of the Beast can change, but Menix needs to get good. I don't believe that's going to happen. So Menix is probably going to stay being my least favorite of this series, and probably won't change. It probably won't. Up in second place, third place, we have Larnak the Swarming Menace. Now, Larnak is the only beast in this series which took part in 3 tournaments. However, the only reason why it's in third place is because it's only done well in 1 tournament. And whilst definitely having the potential to win, it compared to the other semi-finalists, this beast was probably the weakest one. And also only killed 1 beast in that entire tournament because it skips the first round. So, yeah, I think Larnak had a bit of a free ticket to the semi-finals there. But then you got the design, which I think is good in my opinion. The abilities are also good, and then the fight was a little bit lackluster, but the setting for the fight was definitely the best part. So you got lots of up and down parts regarding Larnak, making this a rather average beast in my opinion. Ultimately, though, the job which Larnak has is the second most important in my opinion, which is collecting up the elixir, well, making sure the slaves collect up the elixir to take to the Bay of Heroes so the ships can fly. But yeah, Larnak does have arguably the second most important job in my opinion. However, everything else about her makes her range from great to and then it just makes a rather average beast, which I'm a bit upset to see. But ultimately, though, this is a good series with a lot of great beasts. But what makes them great is their story. It's the story of this series plus their jobs. And how many times have I said that? If I had a pound coin for every time I say that, I swear I'll be a millionaire. So that second place is actually yeah, I'm going to stick with it. Second place is Nasefa the Cursed Siren. Now, this beast, I'm going to start things out by saying, definitely has the most important job of all the beasts here, and that's guarding the fleet that is getting ready for their invasion. So, already brilliant. But then you got the design, which is arguably one of the best designs of the beasts here, as well as abilities being a bit basic, but the fights being the best one this series. So you got great fight, great design, important job, and then the only negatives being a subpar batch of abilities and a not so great reputation in Battle of the Beasts. 3-2. We're getting there, and it's a bit higher than average, so above average. But let's be honest, it's still not that good compared to what other beasts are like. So yeah, I do understand where. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this. Going through this retrospective, I can see why Jack believes this series is overrated. And whilst I am fully aware this series is a bit on the a bit on below average, going to above average, I do understand why. They all have their weak points, which are glaring. But like I said earlier, the story is what makes this series great, in my opinion. If I was ranking this series strictly 100% based on beast perspective, and the only thing I can say about these beasts that is a good point is that they have jobs unlike the other beasts, well, most of the other beasts, then yeah, this series might barely make into the top 10 now that I think about it. But that doesn't change my opinion. I still believe this is a good series. Okay. Oh, God. I'm being proven wrong by Jack. in my own video when I'm trying to give them a moment in the spotlight. Oh my god, how ironic is that? Oh, Jack's gonna love this. Okay, moving on to my favourite beast of the series. It is Durog Hammer of the Jungle. And yeah, the monkey beast is my favourite, which is also a very rare thing to see. Normally the monkey beast is the worst of the series. So what makes Durog my favourite here is okay. What made him my favourite of this series is definitely his progress in the new generation era of Battle of the Beasts. He made it into the top 4 and in semi-finals rather. And let's be honest, out of the remaining 4 that was left, it was obvious Durog was going to be eliminated in the semi-finals. However, it doesn't change the fact that he far outlasted the other beasts in this series, and with that, along with how badass he was throughout that entire tournament, it made him my favorite of this series. Now, with how he did in all generation, though, that my affection towards him has dwindled down a bit, but not enough to where it's no longer my favorite. It's still a very above average beast, like actually going into great territory now. However, the thing that does pull Durog down is his fights. I do agree with Jack. There are parts which should have taken part. There's parts of the fight that should have taken place in the trees of the jungle. However, though, you look at Durog's size and then you think, how would he be swinging around? How can he swing around the jungle? That's my only argument towards it. But other than that, though, every other aspect about Durog I do like. He does add that little bit of nostalgia towards me. Other than that, though, this is definitely my favourite beast of this series. And not much is going to change that unless it does horrible in the next Battle of the Beast tournament and another Series 22 beast comes in and does very good. But yeah, Durog is my favourite of Series 22. Nothing much is going to change there. For how long, though? I don't know. Okay, so that is the Series 22 retrospective. And whilst I do believe this whole entire retrospective could have gone a lot better, where I stand firm with believing this is one of the best series of Beast Quest, I still do believe that. But on a Beast perspective, though, I will give Jack the benefit of the doubt. It may be a little bit overrated, but it's still one of the best ones in my opinion. I absolutely adore this series, and there are some parts of it which draw me to the series over others, which may be more preferred. But then, what really entices me about this series, and I've said this multiple times, is that these beasts do have jobs. And it's not often that you get to see beasts with jobs. And this series is arguably one of the best when it comes to that kind of little aspects, which is very rarely seen. However, though, I will say, on a beast reviewer, on a beast reviewer's eyes, if this beast with this series being so similar to Series 32 in terms of story, if the beasts of Series 32 had everything about them stay the same, and they had jobs on top of that, then Series 32 would be a hell of a lot better than Series 22. That, I will say, I'll hold my hands up to that. However, though, because those beasts do not have jobs, Series 22 is better than Series 32 by a long shot, and nothing can change my mind. And with that being said, that's all for this time. Yeah, okay. So, I am joking, of course. There are other aspects which make Series 22 better, in my opinion. If you do think it's overrated, I do suggest you reread it. It is one of the best series, in my opinion. And with that being said, that is all for this time. If you enjoyed this retrospective, leave a like, leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe, press that little notification bell down in the corner below, and I'll see you next time.